And the meeting is now open for the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Elsie from Alabama, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for the service tonight. I think it is so appropriate for what seems to be going on in our country today. And I want to thank everyone who participates and goes and participates in the watches. We certainly need that help now and forever. And I thank you again. So grateful for you all.
Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you very much for those readings tonight and the hymns. I want to express my gratitude for my Plainfield practitioners' prayers and instructions. Today our heater stopped working. It was this morning. And tonight was expected to be a start of a very cold drop in temperatures. I called someone to come out, and they said that it would probably take a few hours, but they would try to get someone there today. I called my practitioner right after I hung up and explained the situation. No sooner than I had hung up, they called back to say someone was on the way then. He made the came in very cheerfully and made the repair, and he even had enough time to service the furnace, which also saved us arranging for another visit. It was a very good lesson for me in the need of constant watchfulness and prayer, as mentioned in our readings tonight. I'm very grateful for the teachings of Christ Jesus, the science that Mrs. Eddy sacrificed to give us, and this church. Thank you.
Thank you. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the readings. Oh, boy, awesome. And also our beautiful music, the hymn. I would like to express my gratitude this evening for our Bible study classes and also how they are preserved on our website for easy access. It was suggested this week by my practitioner to study the 23rd Psalm, and also mentioned was the healing concerning and that's very important about this psalm. With help from a friend, we went searching and found the study that contained the healing. It's November 25th, 2017, and the Bible study is about Psalm 23, and we went going verse by verse. I have been listening to it and taking notes. I highly recommend this Bible study archive class. I would like to mention just a few things that I use for prayer from that study. God is our shepherd, and he knows us individually. He loves us all the time. And don't be ashamed of a problem. It is a stepping stone out of the valley. God heals us. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy.
I am very grateful tonight for how Christian Science has shown me the right way to deal with feelings of stress and pressure. Before coming to Plainfield, I would often end up feeling like I had too many things to do and too many people trying to pull me in different directions. After a while of this, I would shut right down. But after coming here and learning about Christian Science, I began to understand two important things. First, God is my employer. And second, I don't need to shoulder burdens for him since he has it all under control. Now I know that I only have God to both listen to and to please. If I start feeling like everything I have to deal with is a lot or too much, I stop and work to realize that right this moment is all I have to be concerned with. In fact, often I write on a post-it note the word now, just to be sure I quit thinking about later. What a blessing it is to know I can give God my past, my future, and even this moment. The practical applications that Christian Science have for me are so wonderful, and I am very grateful to this church and to my practitioner for showing me how to be useful to this cause. Thank you. And now I have a testimony from Diana.
Hello, this is Diana from Berlin and Vienna. I'm in Berlin now, and I would like to express my gratitude for the continued discussions on the First Commandment this past weekend in the Bible study and the Round Table. The First Commandment states that thou shalt have no other gods before me. God is omnipotent good, and thinking that there is anything else is dishonoring God. So having any fear is dishonoring God and disobeying the First Commandment, because when we fear anything, we are believing in a power apart from God. This belief in a power apart from God makes us suffer until we wake up out of our mesmerism of fear. Gary said that this suffering is actually a safety for us, because it's God's way of telling us that we don't want to go into that fear and nurse it and keep it alive, as it will keep us in the state of suffering. Someone mentioned the amazing faith and obedience to the First Commandment that Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had to have had when facing such humanly terrifying situations of being thrown into the lion's den and in the furnace of boiling oil. I am currently going through a lot of big changes in my life, and I'm thinking a lot about obeying the First Commandment to keep the fear, anxiety, and feelings of overwhelm to stay out of my experience. It was mentioned to sing praises to God whenever the feelings of fear come up, and it reminds me of a story I heard some years back. There was a man who was in his car, and the car was thrown into a river, I think because of an earthquake. His car filled with water, but he found a pocket of air, literally a very small pocket of air, to breathe, and he started singing hymns of praise to God. Of course, he was rescued and survived, and he told the story to the news and thanked his church. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Dede from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm grateful to have come to know God through my study of Christian Science in this church, instead of merely believing in Him as I once did. To understand that He is the only power who cares for and takes care of everyone and everything is the greatest comfort and gives the most confidence needed to know that any wrong will be made right. Now when I'm faced with challenging experiences, no matter what they may be or who is involved or affected, rather than being instantly and continuously distracted or mesmerized, I can turn to God in thought and in prayer. I'm learning that focusing on God and trusting more in good in challenging times is always necessary to help me see a situation correctly, which always leads to a healing. I'm so grateful for what I'm learning in this church and all that I have to learn with. Thank you, Amanda, so much for tonight's readings, and thank you for all the testimonies given so far. I'm very grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you.
310848.
Someone's calling from area code 310 and 848. Go ahead and announce yourself and then go ahead with your testimony.
Good evening. My name is Edith. I am in California, and I would like to express my gratitude to the Plainfield Christian Science Church for everything that they make available on the website and on the YouTube channel. I just, last October, I started studying Christian Science, and my life has changed in such a wonderful way. I am so grateful for all the recordings, the readings, the teachings, the roundtables, the testimonies, and everything that has been provided and is still being provided. And thank you for making this available to all of us. I am very grateful for the practitioner, for the assistance that is provided and available to me. I had to share something personal before coming to the teachings of Christian Science. I had dealt with obsessive compulsive disorder for about 25 years, and I'm very happy to say that I have been set free from that. I don't have to deal with that anymore, and it's because of what I have learned from this church. So I'm very, very, very grateful. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm very happy to be here. Good evening.
Thank you. Shahidat from Maryland. Go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the readings tonight. I would like to express my gratitude for all the resources available from the church. I'm particularly grateful for the daily email that alerts me to new items on the featured on the website to take a look at. A few weeks ago, there was featured the article by Peter V. Ross, The Simplicity of Metaphysical Practice, I believe. And it was just what I was looking for at that time, and it came in the daily email to go look at that article, and I really appreciate that. Also, I think it was last week I got a notice I subscribed to the YouTube channel, and I got a note saying that the command statements, pages 390 to 393, were available on the YouTube channel to listen to. And I've been listening to that. It's been very helpful. So I just want to say how thankful I am that these resources are available from this church for everybody to participate, to partake of for free. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Bruce. I had a really wonderful blessing earlier this week, and I really attribute it to that marvelous roundtable we had on Sunday morning. And we started out by just reading through the responsive reading from last week's lesson, which talked about not forgetting God's law and keeping His commandments. And there was so much in there. And then the final one was, your ears will hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk ye in it. And I kept thinking how marvelous that is, to hear that voice that tells you which way to walk. That's no small thing. And I had an opportunity to have that blessing this week. I needed to download a software that I had already purchased from my computer, and it required me to go to another website, and to access it, I needed usernames, password, and all kinds of security things to get in there, which I had, but I wasn't able to successfully get in. I tried calling up the customer service to find out what more I needed to do, just to hear a recorded message that the wait time's going to be at least an hour. No, not going there. Hung up the phone. And I just remembered, I got an email from the company about 3 weeks before, and there was a link in the email. And I found it, clicked on the link, and it took me right into the website that would enable me to download the software that I had purchased. So what told me to find that email from 3 weeks ago? There was a little voice that said, go there. So I'm so thankful for the roundtable that we had last Sunday and these wonderful truths to learn about how good He is, and whatever is good, there is a way. God will open the way, and He most certainly does. And I even had another opportunity just this morning where I had to take care of a project on another computer program, and this being the new year, it wasn't like it was last year. And I called the company that sponsored this program, and they wanted to sell me their updated version. Well, I didn't want to buy it, so I hung up the phone, and something said, well, just click on the help button of this software and see if they have any instructions. And they did. And I was able to click on a couple of links and able to do my project today, which I needed to do today. So I'm here saying, thank you, Father. Thank you, Father, that you do provide that voice that's behind you and does tell you which way to go. He is all good. I'm so thankful to learn that here in this church. Benjamin.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to be here tonight, and also very grateful for the inspiring testimonies so far. I have in the church sign outside our church building that read, "Thy love and truth are everywhere." This is true. Sometimes error will want to tell us the opposite, but this is true. God's goodness, God's love is all around us, and you will experience it when you are receptive to it. This morning, as I was coming over to church to do my work here, and usually I stopped at the post office first to collect church mails, and I was doing that this morning. It's been my routine. And I wanted to park my car, and there was limited space for parking. And as I tried to squeeze in my car, and I hit the car behind mine, and the front bumper was broken. I felt bad a little bit about it, for having to cause somebody so much damage. And the owner of the vehicle wasn't there. And I decided to wait for the owner of the vehicle to come. And luckily to me, she wasn't too far away. She came in within a minute or so. And I told her what happened, that I was trying to park my vehicle and I hit her vehicle. And I showed her the damage that I did to her vehicle. Then I advised her to call the police. And I told her that I was very sorry. That it wasn't what I was intending to do this morning. She's okay. Then she called the police. Police came and asked her what happened. She told the police exactly what I told her. So the policewoman asked me what happened. I told her exactly what she just told her. And she took our documents to write her report. As she was about to go to her vehicle to write her report, this woman told the police officer, "You know what? I don't want to file a report anymore. I will fix my car myself." The policewoman asked, "Are you serious?" She said, "Yes, I'm serious." She said, "What this gentleman did," she said, "other people would have continued driving. She wasn't here when it happened. That I waited for her, I showed her the damage, that others could have left without even waiting for her or do anything that I just did. That she's very grateful that I did that, and for that reason, she don't care how much it will cost her, that she's going to take care of her vehicle." I was in a state of surprise. I asked her, "Are you sure that's what you want to do?" She said, "Yes." The joy in her face The gratitude was overwhelming. The police woman was speechless, just as I was. I asked her repeatedly, "Are you sure that's what you want to do?" She said, she's fine. She don't care. She's going to take her vehicle. She don't care how much it will cost her. That she's already pleased for what I did. I was grateful to her, and I couldn't thank her enough. And I thanked the police officer. The police officer said, "Okay, thank you guys." And she only took our names because she said she had to write our names because she came. She took my name and her name, and she left. I thanked her again, and she said, "No problem." She went back to her vehicle, and I went back to the post office and did my business and left. She really blessed my life today. She really blessed my heart. I was thankful to God, and still I am. It was a big lesson to me, knowing that God's goodness is everywhere. There's good in all of us. Though sometimes everyone would like to tell us the opposite. But it's not the truth. The truth is that God's goodness is everywhere. It's in all of us. We experience it when we are receptive to it. And here in science, in Christian science, especially here in Plainfield, we've been taught that you can never be punished for doing good. Never. Even a catastrophic event, like seemingly catastrophic event like this one, can be a blessing. I'm so grateful to be here tonight. I'm so grateful for what God is doing in my life. I'm so grateful for our church. Most grateful for Mrs. Eddy for what she has given to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol.
Several weeks ago at my job, there was a change, and they decided that because the work has changed in a different way, that they don't need as many employees as they've had. And I was one of the possibilities of being dropped. So I just sat down and prayed to God and said, "Father, you gave me this job. Where you want me to be, that's where I will go." And I just prayed like that for just a few minutes. And somebody came by and said, "Gee, we just got another project in, and it's perfect for you." I said, "Well, thank you." and so that was it. I was no longer on the list of a possibility of being cut. And I just sat there and I said, "God, look what you did." I was just so amazed. It was so fast. And just a few minutes later, I got on the phone and called practitioner and reported what had just happened. And the practitioner just kind of laughed and said, "Well, that's how God works." I just am so very grateful for God and for all the good that He has provided for me all my life. So very grateful for Christian Science, because without Christian Science, I wouldn't have had it. I'm so grateful and happy to be in this church, and thank you.
Thank you. Lil.
Thank you for those wonderful readings. I'm so grateful for a wonderful healing of lots of pain in my legs, difficulty in standing up, sitting down, and just sitting. Thanks to God's healing power and my practitioner's tough love, teaching, and prayers, I was again able to move freely as my thinking lifted. I am so grateful for the healing. Thank you, Mrs. Eddy, for this wonderful Christian Science, for this way of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff.
Mary Baker Eddy says in our textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, and I quote, "Divine love always has and always will meet every human need." I didn't realize what Mrs. Eddy's words meant until I lived through a healing experience which I will share with you briefly. I told my Christian Science practitioner that my teenage daughter was in big trouble. Drugs were involved in a criminal misdemeanor. I told my practitioner that I was flying out to Portland, Oregon to go find my daughter. My practitioner said I was going on a mission of love and that it's a good idea to let go of any preconceptions troubling me about my daughter and that God will make a way in the wilderness. I flew to Portland, Oregon, and rented a car. I located my daughter with some of her teenage friends, 2 other homeless teens living out of an old car. When I found her, she was dirty and wearing an army boots and an old army surplus jacket with a peace sign she had painted on the back. I noticed she and her friends were high on pot, which is legally sold all over Portland. In the morning, she had to appear in court for a misdemeanor, but fought against going and would have missed it if I hadn't called the police, who gave us an escort from the hotel to the courthouse. When the judge called her name, I looked around and she was nowhere to be found. So the judge skipped her and called the next defendant. Long story short, she refused to get on the plane home. I'll never forget our goodbye in downtown Portland when we hugged and she walked away wearing a backpack, the army boots, and the army jacket with the peace sign painted on the back. On the plane ride home, I remembered what my Christian Science practitioner said: God will make a way in the wilderness. But it would take many more months of prayers and a second rescue trip to Denver, Colorado to get my daughter home. I continued to work with my practitioner, who reminded me to always love my daughter no matter what, and to know that she is a good girl, governed, guarded, and guided by God. My daughter today is a different person from the one we knew last year. She's recently found a job in TV broadcasting in Grand Junction, Colorado. She must be doing a good job because her boss asked her to go full-time recently. Thank you, Christian Science Church of Plainfield Independent, and thanks to my practitioner for the help, and thanks to Mary Baker Eddy for helping me to get my daughter back. This experience really demonstrated to me how divine love always has and always will meet every human need. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig.
Thank you, Amanda, for those great readings. I feel like my family is everybody in this church and abroad, or that's and everybody that ever was in the Bible. All those wonderful prophets, and from John to Matthew, Jesus. It just feels like I have such a rich heritage, and it gives me strength and a lot of remembering that hitherto had the Lord help us, and henceforth will He. But before I came here, I was up and down, and things would sometimes go good, sometimes go bad. But with Christian Science, it has been triumph, and then working, and then triumph, but not failures. I wanted to go back to work. I been laid off a year or so ago, and when I went to interview originally, I didn't seem to have the skills. I had skills, but not enough of what people were looking for at the time, because I didn't want to go too far. And so after a while, I backed down and said, well, let's just stop. I don't want to be discouraged. And then and the discouragement I needed to get rid of, because I couldn't show very good confidence at that point. Well, I decided prayer, and that God really has a place for me. And even though my financial issues were all taken care of, but He wanted me to be productive. And so I went to a training center the other day, and it's beautiful. I saw exactly what I needed. And then for financing it, I was told today that it would be taken care of. And it's nice how God's love always provides for you. If you need it, you will have it. I shall not want. He definitely is love. I thank God for Christian Science, which keeps us on a steady course in this church.
Thank you. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Tonight I'd just like to share one of the Bible verses that has been so helpful and continues to be so helpful. It's Nahum 1:9. What do ye imagine against the Lord? He will make an utter end. Affliction shall not rise up a second time. I learned about this long time ago from one of the classes here, and has been repeated to me several times during my trials. And this week it keeps coming to my thought, and I've used it a lot. But it has such a broad meaning that, as was read tonight, so many temptations come to us, and some of them seem so tenacious. They will come up over and over and over again. But what a wonderful verse to use. It's as if we say to that, any temptation that comes, what do you imagine against the Lord? Are you here again to disturb my understanding of the all-wise, all-powerful, all-present God that I now know is my protector, my helper, my comforter, and my provider? God will make an utter end, because He has shown me that all those things that you keep suggesting to me are lies. You will not disturb me anymore. He has put an end to it. And at the beautiful ending, affliction shall not rise up a second time. I thank God so much for this, and I thank Mrs. Eddy for the higher understanding of the scriptures that she has given us. I'm so grateful tonight to be here for the wonderful citations on temptation. I'm so grateful for Christ Jesus' mission and how Mrs. Eddy has explained how we are to use it. I'm so grateful for everything I have learned here, all the testimonies so far, and everything that I'm still learning that is helping me to live more and more as a child of God. Happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mary, go ahead.
I have a few emails I'll read tonight. The first from Florida. Thanks for those stunning photos of the Mother Church stained glass windows in the recent Love is the Liberator magazine. The thing that unites us all is the love for Mary Baker Eddy, Christian Science, and what she and the early workers accomplished. These windows, along with the accompanying story of the building of the church, are a wonderful reminder of the blessings we of these more recent generations have as a rich heritage. The rest of the issue is outstanding as usual. And then another from Florida. I am thoroughly enjoying my recent subscription to the Liberator magazine. Not only is it both inspiring and interesting, but there is a sweetness and purity to the articles by members that almost brings tears to my eyes. Thank you to all who contribute and who help to produce this healing work of love. And England. I'd just like to express my gratitude for the Bible study and roundtable this weekend. They were excellent, and I will be listening to the recording again today. I am so grateful for all I am learning and have decided I need to work harder on expressing more patience and humility, particularly with one acquaintance who complains a lot. I am reading and studying as much as I can, and I am very grateful for the resources provided at your church, and I am most grateful to have found you. And then one from New Mexico, he was sending a contribution, and he's a Navajo Indian that lives on an Indian reservation in New Mexico. And I had told him that he didn't have to pay anything for his subscriptions, that we would like to give it to him as a gift. And so he, in return, sent a donation to the church. And I was thinking about Benjamin's testimony tonight and how the rule that love is reflected in love, as Mrs. Eddy says from the Lord's Prayer, for spiritual interpretation. And that every time we do something kind for someone else, that kindness comes back in one way or another. It's a rule and a law of the universe, as we heard tonight. Benjamin also at the membership meeting had told a story of how he had prayed and sent some literature that was requested to Europe, and that it was very expensive, more expensive than the people had sent the amount of postage for. But he sent it freely because he felt God had wanted him to do that. And then both of these people that he sent the literature to sent very generous donations to the church. Again, love is reflected in love. These are such beautiful, touching stories. I'm so grateful. I was so grateful to hear the beautiful testimonies given tonight and the beautiful readings about temptation and how to overcome it. And then, of course, the beautiful music. It's always such a joy to be together, and I'm so grateful to be here with you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.